The holy city of Jerusalem first appears in the descriptions of the Bible during the time of the Abraham. It was here in Jerusalem that Abraham was received by a mysterious priest of God who was named as the highest Melchizedek and who was also the king of Salem. The priest was identified to be the reincarnate of Jesus Christ by Paul. Salem signifies peace and Jerusalem signifies the city of peace. If taken from the perspective of its history, this name might not seem suitable, but later on, Jerusalem rises to become the capital city of the world after Jesus Christ brought down the kingdom of God to the earth. Later on, it became the city of peace. After the conquest of the city by Judah after Joshua's death, the Jesuits regained their control over the city as they continued to dwell in the city until King David conquered the city and he brought the Ark of God into it. King David went on to defeat the Jesuits at the time 1004 BC and then conquered Jerusalem that was believed to be the focus of the people of the God. Jerusalem then went on to become the capital city of the United Nation of Israel under the rule of King David. It thus became the holy site wherein the temple of God was constructed during the rule of Solomon, the son of David. The temple of God was later destroyed by the Babylonians during the era of 585 BC that was built again by the returning of the Jewish exiles from Babylon. It was referred to as the Second Temple that was later destroyed by the Romans during the revolt of the Jewish during the 70 AD. For the last 2,000 years, it has been the longing of the Jewish people to build the temple again in Jerusalem, which has never been fruitful. During the 7th century AD, Islam came to be practiced as the new religion in Jerusalem. The site where temple was the true origin, now mosques that were referred to as Dome of the Rock, were constructed in the era. From the perspective of the Jewish people, the Dome of the Rock stands in the way of the new temple being ever built again in the city. Therefore, a new concern has been raised whether the Dome of the Rock on the site of the temple is its true location or not. With the historic information of the modern era, it has come to light that the acceptance of the Temple Mount by the Jewish people at the true sites of the temple is only around 700 years old, and up to the first millennia, till the time of the Crusades, the Jews accepted another site for the temple. Jerusalem has not only been the focus of the Jewish religion, but also of the Christian religion. It was in Jerusalem that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came to die for the sins of humanity. It was here that he was later crucified, buried, and then resurrected after 3 days and 3 nights. The church that was present in the northwest of the walled city of Jerusalem came to be known as the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and this has been considered to be the true site of the crucifixion, burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The people of Jerusalem until the last century lost sight of the true geography of the city of King David. As per the new historic information, it was revealed that the true site of the temple was above the Gihon spring, which was present in the original city of King David. The Jews, at last, have lost the sight of the location of the holiest temple along with the Christians. The location of the Temple of God. The impressiveness of the Temple Mount complex, the Haram esh-Sharif. If you would visit Jerusalem to the Mount of Olives and would glance at the view of the city to the western area, then one place would dominate your view, that is known as the Temple Mount complex, that is present on the southeast corner, Old City of Jerusalem. The eastern walls of the view would dominate the view of the city. Within the impressive complex are located the Dome of the Rock reflecting the Golden Dome, along with the famous Al-Aqsa Mosque at the south of the Temple Mount complex. Another prophecy reflects the reference of the Jesus Christ with respect to the complete destruction of the city that was caused by the Romans during the 70 AD. Jesus had also prophesied the complete destruction of the temple, along with the whole destruction of the world of Jerusalem, such that no stone would be found upon the other. Jesus had prophesied that every structure in the city of Jerusalem would be levelled to the bedrock, the symbolism of heavenly and earthly temples. To understand the secret of the holy city of Jerusalem, it is imperative to understand the glorious history of the temples as well. The temple in Jerusalem was used to represent the copies of things and events which are in heaven. The The temple on earth, located in Jerusalem, was constructed in the pattern after the things in heaven. In the innermost chamber of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem was known as the Holy of Holies, which was allowed entry only by the high priest once in a year at the Day of Atonement. The Holy of Holies had three objects: the Ark of the Covenant that included the golden lid called the mercy seat, Aaron's rod that has been budded in a miraculous manner, the pot of manna. The temple of God in the New Testament has taken in another meaning where it has been described for the church where the Holy Spirit dwells. It has been referred to as the pillar in the temple of God that plays an important role in the ruling government of God after the kingdom of God came to the earth at the return of Jesus Christ. A pure river or spring of water emanates from the throne of God. This symbolism is used to denote the clue to determine the true location of the temples in Jerusalem. In addition to the symbolism of the three compartments of the temples and the tabernacle, there was also an astronomical pattern in the designing of the wilderness camp and where each of the Israeli tribes was placed in relation to the tabernacle. Garden of Eden symbolism in the temple. The symbolism of the temple does not conclude with the pattern that is observed in the heaven. The three compartments of the temple also represent the main geographical areas of Eden. The middle of the Garden of Eden is used to correspond to the Holy of Holies, where the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, of good and evil, were the spots wherein Adam and Eve met with God. The Garden of Eden represents the holy place. The only entrance to the Garden of Eden was from the eastern direction. This is in correspondence to the fact that all the entrances and doors to the temple into the tabernacle were also at the east. The tabernacle has two divisions, the Holy of Holies and the Holy Place. There was also a third division that was represented by the camp of Israel that was used to encircle the tabernacle to a distance of around 2,000 feet from the tabernacle. The land of Eden was represented by the camp of Israel. The area outside the temple was referred to as the court of the Gentiles. King Solomon had made the intricate carvings of flowers and palm trees in the walls of the holy place such that the holy place would represent a garden. Due to the association of the cherubim in the Garden of Eden, the cherubim were also carved at the temple. The two pillars called as Boaz and Jachin were the two cherubim that were used to guard the entrance of the Garden of Eden, and these were also placed at the entrance of the holy place in the temple, where only the priests were allowed to enter. Boaz was used to represent strength, and Jachin represented the foundation. The temple, symbol of the barrier between man and God. One of the major representations on the pattern of the tabernacle at the temple was that sin separated the humans from the God. It was believed that sin was destructive to the relationship of the man and the God. The temple in the holy city of Jerusalem represented this separation in various degrees between the man and the God that was first created with the sin of Adam and Eve and their expulsion from the Garden of Eden. The second factor was the sin committed by Cain, after which he was also expelled from the Garden of Eden. Israel with the temple in Jerusalem was brought back into Eden when it was presumed that God selected the people of Israel with the notion of developing them into a model nation that would help in drawing back the rest of the mankind back to God. When Israel did live by the laws of the God in the earlier times, the Gentiles had the opportunity to join Israel even when they did not receive the Holy Spirit. Christ has been considered to be the Creator, and his life has been considered to be worth more than the lives of all the mankind combined. There have been representations in the tabernacle and the temple in Jerusalem of how the life of Jesus Christ helped mankind to be reconciled with the God as it broke down all the degrees of separation that were present in the earlier times. Spring in the temple, a symbolic necessity. As it is already mentioned, the temple in the holy city of Jerusalem used to represent the Garden of Eden. The river that flowed through the Garden of Eden also had an important meaning to itself. The spring in the holy Garden of Eden was referred to as the Gihon, that was used to represent the holy waters of gaining purification. The theme of the spring of the fountain, Zion, was represented in the Holy Temple of Jerusalem and was used to denote to the throne of the God or the mountain that has been a recurring on in the Psalms of David. All the possible prophecies of the millennial temple and the New Jerusalem speak about the river or the spring that has been flowing from the throne of God or the house of God. The only spring that is located in Jerusalem is the Gihon Spring, that is situated in the south of the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque along the southeast province of the city that is known by the name the City of David. In the rituals that have been existing in the Holy Land of Jerusalem since years have emphasized the purification only with the waters of the spring and not merely with the water from wells or even rainwater. Similarities between the Temple, the Tower of Babel and the New Jerusalem. The Temple and the Holy City of Jerusalem was constructed and designed by King Solomon that was supposed to be the focal point for all the residents of Israel, no matter which part of the world they were located in. The Temple in Jerusalem was the proper tower. On the other hand, the Tower of Babel was used to represent the new kind of Garden of Eden that was established in the provinces of Jerusalem. The Tower of Babel was designed to be the ground to become the center of religion for all the people on earth. God had selected Jerusalem for the fulfillment of his purpose, and therefore Jerusalem later became the navel of the earth. Conquest of Jerusalem by King David. Jerusalem was initially referred to as the Salem. The early mysterious kind of Salem named as Melchizedek was considered to be the priest of the God Most High. The king of Salem, Melchizedek, has been later identified by Paul to be the pre-incarnation of Jesus Christ. The Jesuits were inhabiting in the fortress city of the modern Jerusalem and the then Salem. This lasted until King David conquered the city of Salem and brought in here the Ark of God around the time 1004 BC. King David went on to change the name of the city after his conquest from Jesuits to the City of David. King David then began the construction of new buildings from the Millo that was situated close to the center of the city. By Millo, it is referred to as to fill in, wherein David went on to fill the area between the Ophel and the Mount Zion for the creation of more even land. The Ark of God was brought to the City of David, where the dwellers within the walls of the city got to witness the Ark of God passing through the city to arrive at the new city of King David that was known to be Jerusalem. After bringing the Ark of God into the holy city of Jerusalem, King David made sure that the people of the city were excited about witnessing the same and rejoiced at it. King David made it sure that the ark and the tabernacle that were used to represent the throne of the God were situated just above the Gihon Spring. Even after the Ark of God was situated on top of the Gihon Spring in the holy city of Jerusalem, and that King David has constructed a tabernacle for the same, the official worship of the God included the regular sacrifices to be made by the priest at the tabernacle situated near the Gihon Spring along the northwest province of the holy city of Jerusalem. To put an end to the widespread communication, the plague in Jerusalem, King David made sacrifices such that God would hear his plea. As the plague stopped, King David decided that this would be the place where his son would build the temple. This was termed in history as the official relocation of the place of worship from the earlier Gihon to Jerusalem. The place of crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The secret and the mysterious history of the holy city of Jerusalem can also be marked with the crucifixion of the Jesus Christ. The Apostle Paul had claimed that Jesus Christ was crucified outside the gate and outside the camp in the city of Jerusalem. Owing to this reason, the city of Jerusalem holds great importance in terms of religious and spiritual significance to the Christians of the world. By outside the gate, it is meant that Jesus Christ was crucified outside the walls of the old city of Jerusalem. These theories seem to rule out the Church of the Holy Sepulchre that was situated inside the old city of Jerusalem in the northwest province of the city. By outside the camp, it is used to refer to the place in the old city of Jerusalem where the bodies of animals were burnt and their blood was brought to the sanctuary in the Holy Temple. Therefore, with the reference to the crucifixion of the Jesus Christ outside the camp refers to the fact he was crucified nearly at the same place where the bodies of the sacrificed animals were burned. Therefore, in the historical references to the holy city of Jerusalem, it has been referred that the crucifixion of Jesus Christ was done both outside the gate, outside the walls of Jerusalem, and outside the camp that was situated around 3,000 feet outside the walls of the city of Jerusalem. The symbolism of the temple and animal sacrifices. There are several strong pieces of evidence with respect to the exact location where Jesus Christ was crucified. Some of them include the symbolism of the animal sacrifices and the temple, the symbolism of the Garden of Eden and the temple, along with the symbolism of the place wherein different types of sin were burnt off as an atonement of the people pointed out to the Saviour of mankind by being crucified on the east of the temple as an offering for the sins of the mankind. The temple in the holy city of Jerusalem had three main divisions: the Holy of Holies, the Court of Israel, the Holy Place. The entrance to all these three sections of the temple in Jerusalem was located in the east of the city. The middle of the Garden of Eden corresponded to the Holy of Holies, where the tree of knowledge and the tree of life of good and evil were located, which was believed to be the place wherein Adam and Eve met with God for the first time. The Garden of Eden was used to represent the holy place at the temple in Jerusalem. When the residents of Israel brought their offerings to the tabernacle in the temple, they brought it to the entrance that led to the tabernacle. The only entrance to enter the tabernacle was from the east, that was permissible to the high priests only. Even the Holy of Holies faced in the eastern direction, along with the tribe of Judah to which Jesus belonged. That was the primary position of the eastern region of the tabernacle. The offerings of the sin were in the form of the animal sacrifices, in the form of goats and bull that were killed on the Day of Atonement. After the sacrifices were done, the blood of the sacrificed animals was sprinkled before the inner curtain of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. There is an additional evidence which signifies the crucifixion of Jesus Christ on the eastern side. It can be viewed as a ceremony from China that has its roots back to the antiquity and various remarkable similarities with symbolism from the Bible and the Garden of Eden. This is referred to as the Chinese border sacrifice. One of the main reasons why the citizens of Jerusalem considered the Holy Temple to be the site for the construction of the altar by Abraham to offer Isaac that the temple was built in the Mount Moriah. The meaning of the word Moriah is used to signify the act of God seeing. Therefore, it can be considered to be the place where the God offers his utmost attention. Therefore, Mount Moriah can be regarded as the Mount of the Lord. Because of the strong typological connection between Isaac and Jesus, the Mount Moriah seems to be a logical spot where the crucifixion of the Jesus Christ could have been intended near the sacrifice spot of Isaac. It is considered that both the Romans and the Jewish religious authorities had their hands in the execution of the Jesus Christ in Jerusalem. All the things that were located on the east of the holy city were considered unclean or impure. Therefore, the site for the execution of the criminals and the murderers were usually located in the area that would not affect the purity and the sacredness of the holy city of Jerusalem. All the people who were convicted under the law of Moses and those who were worthy of the penalty of death were considered to have been given the judgment of God, and therefore the execution of such sinners was enacted in the presence of God, usually on the side that the temple faced, the east side. Importance of the Mount Olives to the 1st century church. The Mount of Olives has been considered to be of great importance to the early Church of God. The Mount Olives was the place where the Shekinah glory retreated to after moving from the temple before the destruction of the temple by the Babylonians. As per the verdict of the Josephus, a similar thing had happened at the time when the Herodian temple was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. Therefore, the Shekinah glory had retreated to the Mount of Olives. The location of the Mount of Olives has been considered to be the location where Jesus Christ has resided when he was in the Jerusalem area and gave away several preaching to the people of Jerusalem. The Mount Olive was considered to be the location of his ascension, and this will be the place on earth where Jesus Christ would return on his second coming back to the world. It has also been considered to be the place of the crucifixion of the Jesus Christ. There was a church named as the Ileona Church that was built on top of the grotto cave that was, however, later destroyed by the Persians in 614 AD. After several centuries, the Crusaders built another church on top of the same location, under which lies the same grotto. This church built by the Crusaders remains to this day and is referred to as the Church of the Pater Noster, and underneath the cave has located the tomb of Jesus Christ, where it was originally located. This church is located very close to the northern summit of the Mount Olives that has been considered to be the spot of the crucifixion of the Jesus Christ. It could be rightly said that the location of the Mount Olives was considered to be the home of Jesus Christ when he was present in the holy city of Jerusalem. All of his preaching and teachings, along with the occasion of the Last Supper, were conducted at the Mount of Olives. The Mount of Olives, as per the customs of the Jewish people, was also referred to as the Mount of the Anointing, which has the meaning as the Mount of the Christ, the Anointed One. The Christians around the world and those in Jerusalem are well aware of this fact and its significance that Jesus Christ, while he was in Jerusalem, made the Mount of Olives his abode, and Olive was considered to be truly his mount. The Mount of Olives was considered to be the holiest location in Jerusalem other than the Holy Temple itself. To the Christians, it was even holier due to the presence of Jesus Christ in its premises for so long. It was the area where Jesus Christ was crucified, buried, and even resurrected from the dead. It has also been considered to the spot wherein he will return back to the earth from the heaven. A great philosopher named Ernest Martin, in his creation Secrets of Golgotha, wrote that the temple stood where the dome of rock was located, much before the latter changed its position. There is another precise location known as the Mount of Offense that is too close to the site of the temple outside the camp. The Church of the Ascension and the Pater Noster Church both are located almost northeast of the site of the true temple. There is another church named the Church of the Holy Sepulchre that is the traditional site that is accepted by the Orthodox Christians and the Catholics as the site of the crucifixion and burial of the Jesus Christ. During the year 306 AD, Constantine took the throne of the Roman Empire and he became to be regarded as the first ever Christian emperor. Constantine was made to believe that he should erect such a church at the place of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ in the holy city of Jerusalem in the atonement for his actions against his own family. One of the famous historians of the 5th century named Sozomen claims that some facts reveal that the tomb of the Christ was disclosed first by a Hebrew man who lived in the East and who derived his information from the documents that had come down to him by the inheritance from his parental side. The man who had the historical evidence of the passions of Christ was a Jew with the name Judas. Crucifixion of Jesus Christ. There have been several doubts of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ in the Holy Lands of Jerusalem. Several questions have been raised about what type of cross was Jesus Christ crucified on. Where exactly was Jesus Christ crucified? Almost half of the world has believed for the past 1600 years that Jesus Christ was crucified on either a Roman and a Greek type of cross, or a simple stake was used to crucify Jesus Christ. Many scholars and historians of the world have believed that Jesus, who was subjected to extensive whippings and beatings, might have carried a fully assembled Latin cross that weighed around 200 pounds. However, the cross that was transported by Jesus Christ was only the upper cross piece that was nailed to provide substantial support. It was to this plank that the hands and wrists were nailed, as the upper part of the plank was known as the patibulum. There is another important fact with respect to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ that must be taken into note. The Apostle John claims that Jesus Christ, along with 2 robbers, was crucified on a single tree and not on 3 separate trees. After the crucifixion, Jesus was buried by the Joseph of Arimathea, who was traditionally believed to be his uncle and a citizen of Rome. Jesus was buried in a nearby tomb close to the location of the crucifixion. There is historic evidence of the fact of the presence of the burial tomb of Jesus Christ under the Pater Noster Church in the northern area of the Mount of Olives. This location has been observed to be a place of religious and spiritual significance among the Christians. The Sabbath, the day after the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, was considered to be a high day and was referred to as the annual Sabbath, the first day of unleavened bread. In 30 AD, the year that Jesus Christ was crucified, the Passover, when he was crucified, was on Wednesday and was considered to be the first day of unleavened bread that was on Thursday. If Christ was resurrected just before the sunset on the day of Sabbath and did not show himself to anyone until the next 12 hours, then it is believed that during those few hours Christ went on to preach to the fallen angels who were imprisoned and had rebelled at the time of Noah. Jesus became the pledge from God. His resurrection and ascension is believed to happen to all of us as well. We too will be one day resurrected and ascend to meet him, the Almighty. The New Jerusalem. The Millennial Temple. The prophet of Jerusalem, Ezekiel, had started in Ezekiel 40, which gives a vision of what the new temple would look at the time when Jesus Christ would return and the millennium begins. God has given him extraordinary details about the upcoming temple complex and the new arrangement of the Holy Land that was very different from what we had known in the past. One of the common features of the ancient gates was that there were a series of rooms to the side and even above it. These served as both administrative and defensive purposes. The outer gate, located in the eastern region, has 3 rooms on either side of it. The tour then proceeds to the outer southern gate and the outer northern gate that are identical to the outer eastern gate. There are various chambers that are prepared in the offering of the gates at the chambers of priests and singers that are adjacent to the south and north gates of the inner court. The tour will then proceed to the holy place or the sanctuary where only the priests are permissible to enter the premises. The temple sanctuary and its construction are not described in detail in Ezekiel, but there is enough description to realize that the design is very much similar to both the temple and the tabernacle. The point of the statement of Jeremiah might simply claim that the actual presence of the God in the personification of the glorified Jesus Christ will somehow overshadow the ark, that this object will not be thought upon. People will go to the holy city of Jerusalem not just to visit the mere resting place of the ark, but also to observe the location where the Almighty King sits on his majestic throne. In case the future temple is also located over the Garden Spring, then the southeast spur will have to be enlarged in a considerable manner, but there will be some significant geographical changes that might occur in some areas of Jerusalem. It is assumed that the Mount Olive will be divided into 2 at the time when Christ would return, wherein half of the portion of the Mount of Olives will move towards the north and another half of it would move towards the south. It is also highly possible that this will bring the southern summit of the Mount of Olives at the location of the Mipkad altar and the location of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ exactly due to the eastern region of the Garden Spring and the Holy Temple instead of 10 degrees north of the eastern region. Another major change that might occur in the geography of Jerusalem would include the river that starts to flow at the temple, possible Gihon Spring, and would flow towards the Mediterranean Sea and towards the Dead Sea and would heal the Dead Sea. Following the Great White Throne Judgment period and the Millennium, it is believed that God the Father will descend from heaven and will live among the mankind along with Jesus Christ. He will bring with himself the incredible New Jerusalem. In another way, the New Jerusalem will be 2/3 of the entire area of Australia and can be as big as the United States of America. The walls of the New Jerusalem will be as much as 20 stories high. There is a tree of life in Jerusalem that bears 12 different fruits, and its leaves are meant for the purpose of healing the nations. The people need healing after the New Jerusalem would descend to the earth after the period of the Great White Throne Judgment, and the wicked people will be cast into the lake of fire that would lead to the possibility that several new humans will be created from the different parts of the earth that would become the new headquarters of the universe when God the Father would dwell with the mankind. It is being presumed that the names of the tribes of Israel, whether physical or spiritual, will be open to the gates of New Jerusalem. The names of the tribes of Israel are in an order that is uniquely compared where they are recorded somewhere else. While there are physical beings and humans on the earth in the present millennium that is still doing the sins and would need a reminder of how their sins are separating them from the God and the high cost of the reconciliation through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ in the Holy Land of Jerusalem. God the Almighty has decreed that there will be a physical temple in the holy city of Jerusalem. As per the Bible, the history of Jerusalem and the Israelite history began as early as the 1000 BC with the sacking of Jerusalem by King David. After this, Jerusalem came to be known as the City of David and also became the capital of the nation United Kingdom of Israel. By the end of the First Temple period, the holy city of Jerusalem came to be known as the sole religious shrine in the Kingdom of Israel and also the main center of the regular pilgrimage of the local people and the people from across the corners of the world. Until the 7th century AD, the holy city of Jerusalem was repeatedly changing and being transferred to the hands between the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire and the Sassanid Empire. During the year 638, the Islamic Caliphate extended the dominion of its rule to the holy city of Jerusalem that has been considered to be the third holiest city after Mecca and Medina. After the conquest of the holy city by the Arabs, the Jews have been allowed back into the city of Jerusalem, which was until the time of Crusades remained under the control of the Arabs. During it, secretive and impressive span of 6,000 years, the holy city of Jerusalem has observed the rise and the fall and has risen anew again several times in its historic span of existence. Throughout the centuries, the holy city of Jerusalem had hardly become the bastion of monotheism as it is today. It was back 6,000 years ago that the ancient people had settled along the hills of the Ghan Spring and went on to formulate the majestic history of Jerusalem. As it can be mentioned at the outset, the name of the holy city of Jerusalem has been derived apparently from the name of a Canaanite god, the meaning of which is referred to as the City of Peace. Today, Jerusalem is thriving and larger than before. However, it still remains divided in the shackles of the religious and spiritual hassles between the Muslims and the Christians. In a combination of the secret history of the holy city of Jerusalem, it also holds a majestic history in terms of religious and spiritual importance to several communities of the world, as it still continues to attract several tourists each year to the Holy Lands.